It's Psych Ups with Ryan, and you are here with me this morning, Friday. Today, I want to talk about the different ways that you can generate deals by yourself. Okay, so there's obviously the nice thing about the way we do real estate investing is that we can reach out to customers who already have their house for sale, especially FISBOs, but all kinds of different people. And we have several different what we call opening calls. So a lot of businesses, like a restaurant, you'll advertise, you'll put a big sign out in front, you'll send out some coupons into the neighborhood or whatever, but you're really at the whim of who walks in the door. You can't go out and grab people in their house and say, come in here. Okay, now real estate's a little bit different because we can generate business by ourselves. We can reach out, we can go out to people, we can actually call for sale by owners. Obviously, that's one of the primary lead sources for some of your guys' businesses. Some of you are doing some kind of software program and you're doing other kind of techniques. You're doing signs or letters, direct mail. You have other marketing campaigns, but a lot of people use outbound calling. Outbound calling is a way to definitely generate leads. If you do one deal a month, you're going to do amazing at this business. And if you do efficient outbound calling, there's no reason you couldn't find one deal a month by just doing outbound calling. Now, it's better if the seller calls you. It's preferable because then they're coming to you and just the dynamic is a little bit better. But if you are calling them off a for sale by owner ad or a landlord ad or some other thing, that's also going to start the conversation and hopefully lead to you buying that sale. So good morning, guys. Who's here with me today? Serene Night Skyline. Yes. Good morning. And Lucky Ann is here. Lucky Ann, thank you for your help. Well, I'm glad to help you guys. Happy Friday. So what are the main primary opening calls that you can do? FISBOs is obviously one. So for sale by owners. Where do you find for sale by owners? A really good place to find them is on Zillow. Zillow, because you can look at the pictures, and a lot of times what's nice is that you can use the map. Okay, and the map is nice. So if you click on the top row on Zillow, if you click for sale, and then you got to go down to the part where it says more. Okay, and then you got to click a few things there. There's a whole lot of things highlighted that you have to take off. Okay, you got to take off agent listed. You got to take off vacant land. You got to take off auctions. Those are the big three: auctions, vacant land, and agent listed. But there's some other checks there. So the only one that should be left after you go under more, the only one that should be left is owner listed. Okay, and so then you're going to get a clear picture of how the FISBOs, and you can look over on the map on the left and you can see where they are. They all have a little red dot. And so you can actually click on the red dot and you open up the listing, or you can open up the listing from the right side where they're all listed over on the right side. Okay, so that's a really good, easy way to work FISBOs. And you should be in touch with every FISBO in your market. Most cities don't. It's not like you have 1,000 FISBOs to call. If you have more than 20, you're probably doing fairly well. Depends on your city. And also remember, you can target other cities. This is a really virtual business, so you can be doing this business. You can be targeting other cities. Lynette and I own properties in 5 different states, other than Arizona, Indiana, Kentucky, Minnesota, and Detroit, in the Detroit area in Michigan. So and that's because you can do it. And the ideal, if you wanted to accumulate 20 rental properties, and that is the goal of financial freedom, that is the path to financial freedom, 20 properties times a $500 a month positive cash flow spread on each one. So that would bring you $10,000 a month. So everybody should be thinking of that number. That should be a number in everybody's head. 20 houses times $500 positive cash flow per month, $10,000 passive income per month. That's my goal for financial freedom. Most of us can probably get along okay, especially once our car and our house is paid off. If we could do $10,000 a month coming in passive income, we'd be in pretty good shape. So that's the end goal. How long should it take you to get there? Well, I've seen people do it in a couple of years. If you got really serious, I got one student who's in Mississippi. Her name is Diane, and she actually bought the first year she bought 6 duplexes. So you don't have to buy 20 houses. You got to do 20 doors. So could you buy 5 fourplexes? So long as they all profit $500 per door, yeah, that would work. Okay, so you can do multifamilies. A lot of times it's, you can get some financing on those, and those open up some interesting opportunities. But remember, the end goal, if you're shooting for financial freedom from real estate, is 20 rent-to-own homes that you're not doing the repairs on and that you collected big non-refundable option deposits on. Okay, and 20 rentals, all cash flowing at $500 a month. That's your end goal. Now let me just give you a couple other ways to reach out, though. Remember, we started talking about the different ways that you're going to be reaching out. Hey, Lacey. Always wonderful to see Lacey. You got such a pretty smile in your picture there. Hey, great to see you guys. Terry and Angie. Tony and Angie, Tony. Great to see you, Tony and Angie. And if the seller PITI is high, okay, that's a good question. Let me get to that in a second. Let me just talk about real quickly, guys, some of the outbound calling that you can do. So, and some of it you're not thinking about maybe. Everybody kind of knows about FSBOs. So FSBOs, you should definitely be calling all the FSBOs in your market and in other markets. Okay, but beyond FSBOs, there are also landlord opening calls. So there's a special landlord opening call script in your what to say and what to do system in the forms folder. Okay, and so go to that and print off a bunch of those, and go to Zillow again and go to houses for rent, where it says for sale, for rent, or sold. Those are the 3 choices on that drop down menu. Click for rent, and then on the map you're going to see a bunch of purple dots. All those purple dots are rentals. Okay, and sometimes there's a lot more rentals than there are FSBOs. So you can call those landlords using the landlord opening call script. And what are you asking? You're just saying, hey, I'm an investor too. I see you got this property for rent. Would you consider a rent to own? Okay, that's your big pitch. It's already for rent. They're already open to taking monthly payments. You just want an option to purchase on top of it. And a lot of them are flexible on that. So that can be very productive to call a bunch of landlords. And then the other thing, you can call realtors. Now, some of you guys are a little nervous about calling realtors, and realtors can be kind of jerks sometimes. They're going to try to pre-screen you and make sure you're for real on the first call. So they might kind of ask you some questions or whatever. They don't want to spin their wheels and waste time on somebody who's not for real. But that's why I've got that whole Realtor Riches program I talked about before. And that I want you to approach these realtors once the property is listed for 30 days or has a price reduction. You can send them an email or a text and say, hey, I want to make a full price offer on your property. Would this seller consider taking monthly payments? When we buy nice houses, we are able to pay full price if we find sellers who are open to monthly payments. Would your seller consider that? Or do you know any other sellers that would consider that? And then you call back, or they call you back, or you call them back. You follow up. The subject line on this email is full price offer on your listing. And then you just chat them up and say, I buy these properties like this, and for sure I'm going to pay your commission up front. Okay, remember, in the what to say and what to do system, you just follow that opening call script, because that's the right thing to say to the landlords, and it says everything you need to say. Okay, to develop a good landlord relationship with somebody, and somebody has 40 properties and they're kind of divesting, you might be able to get a couple of really good rentals off of a landlord. Okay, now the other one, so landlords and then also FSBOs, and also rentals. Okay, so those are the ones you're calling. And so when you're doing your outbound calls, now sometimes when you're calling a landlord, a property manager will pick up. So if you call on a house for rent and a property manager picks up, I want you to there's a property manager closing call script or opening call script, and you just say, hey, I'm looking for landlords who would be open to selling on monthly payments. And that's what you're looking for. So if you get a property manager on the phone, sometimes they know a whole bunch of landlords, so that can be a really good lead. All right, so that's a lot of stuff to cover, but you can start making your own opening calls again. The other opening call that we do sometimes is if we have a computer system that's finding us good deals and scoring the deals, and there's one called RealFlow, but a lot of them now have these programs where you can do search, search, create lists, and then it will actually rank the houses and score them. So if you are just doing it that way and you're finding off market properties, those are ones you can call too. But remember, if you're calling off market properties, your first question is, would you be open to selling? Because this is not somebody who's saying, yes, I'm selling. Okay. So those are all opening calls that you could make this weekend. You could make 10 landlord calls on Saturday, 10 FSBO calls on Sunday, but you can get out there and start making these calls, outbound calling. You can generate your own leads. So that's what I like about that. Now, okay, so now we had a question here, which I like. So if the seller PITI is high, now this is a challenge, guys. If you have, and this is one of the biggest challenges in the market, you got some motivated sellers, but they got their mortgage when the interest rates was a little higher. And so their payment is a little bit higher than what you think you can get for rent. Okay, I think that's what you guys are asking about here. It's if the seller PITI is high, can you negotiate with him to cover some of it? If so, I can bring even one day in the future in a 0 entry and 20+ year term. Okay, I think I understand what you're asking here. So guys, can you ask the seller, on a seller financing deal, can you ask the seller to do anything? Yes. Could you ask the seller for 2 months, for 2 years with no payments for 24 months? If there was some reason for it, yeah. If you could justify it, yeah, you can work out just about anything. And so with something like this, remember, there's 4 deal points. And this is the thing, guys, have we bought houses with negative cash flow? Yeah, we have. Okay. And how do you do that? You weigh out the other deal points. There's always 4 deal points: purchase price, monthly payment, length of term, and down payment. So your monthly payment is not great. All right. You may even have a negative cash flow, but what if you got a really good purchase price? What if you got it for 20,000 equity, free equity under the market? What if you got a long term? They say you can take over my mortgage and I got 27 years left on the mortgage. Well, that's a long term. A long term and a high payment is not necessarily great though. So, but getting the long term, you won't have to get a balloon payment. There'll be no balloon payment where you have to refinance out of this mortgage. Okay. And then lastly, what's the down payment? If they're handing you this house for nothing down, then you got to say, well, if they're giving you some free equity and you're getting it for nothing down or just closing costs and you can break even on the monthly, I'd probably do it. And then I'd just hang on to it and try to break even on it for a couple of years and then maybe sell it for cash, something like that. So there's lots of different strategies. And usually, guys, we err on the side of buying it. If it looks like, well, is this really a good deal? And it's a cash flow issue, we'll usually pull the trigger, and then usually something works out. And, sometimes, again, you want to have something that balances it. If all 4 terms are not great, including the monthly payment, then it's not a good deal. But if you have something on those other, either purchase price, monthly purchase price, length of term, or down payment that's real attractive, that outweighs sometimes that monthly payment. So could you say, hey, Mr. Seller, your payment's $2,400 and I can only get $2,200 for this house per month. Can you kick in $200 a month? Well, you can ask them that, or you can say, if you're paying them cash for it or anything, or you could get them to discount the purchase price by $5,000 if they have room. Okay, so discount the purchase price by $5,000. That would buy you like 2 years of $200 a month negative cash flow. So remember, you can weigh it out in another area. If you can get more money down from your buyer or whatever it is, there's ways to counterbalance a low monthly payment. But that is, if you don't have something that looks good and juicy in the deal and you're breaking even on it, then, you got to think, is this going to be a good deal for me in the long run? But yes, you can certainly ask the seller to pick up part of that. Usually that's kind of a hard one to do. But let's see, who's got another question? Would you recommend rather lease option over buy if PITI is a bit over the rent I can get? Yeah. No, but why are you doing it? If you can't make a monthly payment, if you got no monthly spread in this house and you won't have it in the future, if you say, okay, the rents are going up around here. Right now I got a break even, but I think I'll raise the rent over the next couple of years. So I'll be getting $100 or $200 a month positive cash flow. Also, guys, there's something called the down payment assistance program where you can ask them to pay a little extra towards the purchase price every month. Sometimes that can outweigh it as well. But if you are ever in a deal where it's uncertain and you're not clear and you're not that sure about the value or the deal or whatever, lease purchase is a good secondary position, because then you don't have to, there's no recording costs. If you're buying houses in Florida, there's about 3% closing costs with what they call doc stamps. And so if you don't want to pay that, and it's kind of not a real lucrative deal anyway, then that would be a good option. Just do a sandwich lease purchase when you buy it. So you're lease purchasing it from your seller and you're turning around and lease purchasing it to your buyer. But like I said, if they give you some nice free equity, that could turn into a great deal. But I'm not going to hang on to that long term. I'm going to put a buyer in there, and then I might even pay for their credit repair. I want to get them through the process quickly if I have any kind of equity in this house, so that I can get that equity out and invest it in a property where I have a positive monthly cash flow. Okay. All right. So that's a good point, though. Anytime a deal is you're not as sure about it, you can always take that position of doing a sandwich lease purchase. What are your 3 sources for getting deals? We get a lot of deals through referrals, but that's just because we've been around a long time, and we ask everybody we've ever worked with. We're always asking for referrals. So referrals is a big way. We still do outbound calling. We do direct mail as well. We do have a software program that we use that we send postcards out of. This software program, it's basically RealFlow, but it is a whitelisted version, and you can send mailers out from this. You can make offers on properties. You can do lots of things with this software. So we also do that. But guys, if you are just looking to get something going, get something generated, go over what I just talked about today, doing outbound calling, because you can generate your own leads. If you guys want to talk about marketing, I have 3 whole systems on marketing. One's called Masterful Marketing. One's called, it's basically developing a referral network. And then there's another one I have that's all about social media marketing. So we do a fair amount on social media, not tons, but that should be also a component in your business. All right, so good questions today, guys. Lacey has a question. Duplex asking 180K. ARV is 315. Okay, auction date is in a couple weeks. In New Orleans district, owes total 150 and is behind, and 13 behind. Okay, 750 a month. So this thing's going to auction. I mean, so would 13 catch it up so it wouldn't go to auction? Could you buy this duplex for $13,000? Would the seller basically deed it over to you if you caught it up? That's the question. That's a really potentially great deal, obviously, because you got such a massive amount of equity in it. That really looks like a great deal. You know what? If you want to send me more on that, you know how to text me, Lacey, because that looks like a good one, and I wouldn't want you to miss that one. Guys, you know my text number, and I put it in here every once in a while. So everybody should put my number in their phone so you have it. Okay. So Lacey, you can text me the address and let me look at it. It sounds really potentially like a good one. But the question is, if it's going to auction in 2 weeks, how do you save it from auction? You got to talk to sometimes guys, even if you catch it up, they won't do it. And so that's an important call, is the actual seller. You can be on the phone too, but the seller has to call their mortgage company and ask them if we pay, or you will have an authorization to release information, but that's just another step. You have to send it in before they'll talk to you. If the seller can just call them and say, hey, if I send you, $13,786 by this date, will I be considered all caught up? and then, you just make payments on the mortgage after that. Well, if that's, sometimes they'll say, no, it's already in legal and we're going to go ahead and take it to the auction, and so then, you can't even save it. But if this is savable, if it's not savable and it's going to auction, then somebody's going to come up with, a couple $100,000 and buy this thing. But if we can get it before it goes to the auction by working it out with the seller, but that's why the seller's got to call that mortgage company and find out, if we cured the arrearage, would you stop the foreclosure proceeding, is what you're trying to get them to do. Okay. So that's a really good point. Okay. I like it when you guys have good questions about these deals. 3-1 unit on another side, 2-1. Okay, that's nice. A 3-1 on a duplex. That's a really attractive unit. Usually you only get 2 1s. Okay, I came across a lot that okay to sell for what they owe, 0 down, high payment. Okay, you come across a lot of them that are like that. Okay for selling what they own, but their payments are high. If you want to send me your best one that looks like that, text me the address. And if you're running into the same kind of deal over and over again, sometimes there's some kind of something we can figure out with some creative financing that we can start to convert some of these, especially if you've got motivated sellers who are willing to give you their house, and then it's just a matter of coming up with something creative. Okay, so yeah, send me a text. You guys have my text number there. Follow up with me and let me go ahead and talk to you about it. That's my text number there. Yeah, I got that right. She just got her statement. Okay, you have it. All right, awesome. I have one under contract right now like that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, if you want to send me information about that, Lacey, I know you've always got something cooking, so that's great. All right, guys, so this was a really fun one today. Talked a lot about outbound calling and just, taking action. And that's the thing I like about outbound calling, is it's a way that you can take action to generate some business without going through, a whole big long marketing process and waiting for calls and stuff like that. Okay, so let's do, I love making calls. Okay, I love making opening calls. That's what outbound calls are, essentially opening calls. But remember, they're advertising their house for sale. These aren't cold calls. These are calls to people who are trying to sell their house. And they usually like to get calls. So I love opening calls. Okay, 3 times on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I love opening calls. I love opening calls. I love opening calls. Yes. Opening calls lead to closing calls, which lead to deal meetings, which lead to deals. Awesome. So let's do 3 deep breaths. Nice deep breath in. Good. Hold it a little bit. And okay. Another one. Hold it and exhale. Okay, I forgot. One more. All right, good. Guys, I forgot the contest. Okay, I was going to talk all about the contest. So guys, I'm just going to remind you, remember, I got a contest going right now. So if you're turning in leads or we're talking about deals or whatever, I'm probably going to let you guys win a bunch of prizes for Christmas. So remember, you can go on thewolfcouple.com, go on our Wolf Shop and see all those cool systems. You can actually win one of those systems if you turn in a testimonial or a great deal that we can talk about on the stream here. All right, so everybody, great job. And follow up with me especially if I said follow up with me, definitely follow up with me, and I'll watch my phone today, okay? And anybody else, I'm sort of opening it up because I'm doing the contest right now this month. So you got about a month of this contest. So, because I'm going to declare the winner right before Christmas so we can give out the prize by Christmas, okay? All right, so you got about a month, so let's make it happen. Let's get out there, get motivated, and until I talk to you next, keep expecting success, getting awesome training from the Wolf Couple, and taking action. Make some calls this weekend, make some deals happen. Okay, I'll see you back here on Monday.